you will see people who can be technically very sound. So they are too very focused on the tech side. But when it comes to entrepreneurship, you need to have an all-round vision, all-round outlook, right? You need on business. I should say that we have one of the best talents. Okay. We also jovially say we understand Jugaad much better than anybody else. Regional, of course, a few South Indian regional languages are very, very common. Hindi is there. English is another connection. Though technology books are primarily in English, right? For example, consumption of technology.
A very good evening to everyone. We have gathered here to be a part of very enlightening and informative e-talk session presented to you by IIC Pvt. IIC stands for Institutions Innovation Council, the official e-cell of Pvt, backed by MHRD of India. It was brought into existence with the motive of imparting knowledge on innovations, technology, entrepreneurship, and startups to young innovative minds through various seminars, workshops, and fests. We believe in creating an ecosystem where students can be nurtured in a fun and enjoyable atmosphere.
We would like to extend a special welcome to our honorable guest speaker, Mr. Shyam Sekar, founder, Chief Mentor and Strategist at Startup Xperts, a business consulting and digital marketing firm aimed at supporting startups and enterprises in India and abroad. With over 24 years of professional experience, he is an international accredited mentor and has helped scale businesses in IT and ITES across the globe. The startup coach, accelerator, and builder is the founder and creator of an acclaimed media company, Voxit. Sir, we are honored to be in your presence at Envisage 22. Thank you for joining us today, sir. With this, we request Mr. Shyam, sir, to start the session. We will begin by asking sir a few questions.
Sure, very warm welcome, very happy evening to all of you, and it's been a wonderful introduction. Thanks, I'm delighted to be in touch with you. I'm here to share some thoughts and some insights that can be of some help to every one of you.
Sir, we would like to ask you, kindly tell us about the story of your startup.
I have two stories. One is Startup Xperts, the other one is Voxit. So which one?
So, if possible, both.
Both. Okay. All right. So,
sir, kindly tell us the most inspiring one.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes.
Sir, kindly tell us the most interesting one.
Most interesting. I don't know. For me, listening to you is more interesting than talking about myself. But anyway, I'll give you a quick background as to how all this happened and stuff like that. So,
Sure.
I was in corporate life for almost 2 decades, right? Before I enrolled myself in a management course, executive management program at Harvard Business School in Boston when I was in the US. We got relocated. And then post the course, I felt I could help quite a few entrepreneurs, small and medium business owners with some strategies and with some kind of insights as to how they can build and grow the business. And that probably prompted me to relocate back to India. So startup was something not very familiar at that point in time, talking about 2013, 14 time frame. So startup was not very popular in India those days, though globally US have been familiar with this kind of word. Silicon Valley was popular in terms of building and nurturing startups and talents. So I came back to support startups, and that's how Startup Xperts was founded. And it's been almost about 8 years now. So we've been supporting, mentoring, coaching a number of entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs types. And as an entrepreneur supporting other entrepreneurs, I also felt that I should build my own startup, right? So that's how the Voxit, the podcast app, came into life. And it was kind of a concept that was running in for quite some time. And we tried to build, created the prototype and working model, and then try to figure out the business model, and then we crack the puzzle in terms of how to build it up. It's not an easy market to be in, and so now we have completed well over 2.5 years in this business, little less than 3 years, I would say, and things are going fairly pretty well.
It was so nice of you, sir. Next, I would like to ask that what is your experience being a startup coach in today's world?
Startup coach. Well, see, today's entrepreneurs actually need the support system in terms of how to build and how to scale it up. There is no dearth of ideas. There is no dearth of ideas in terms of how a startup needs to be built, or how the thought process even need to kick in. So that's how the whole thought process is. So there should be some coach, there should be mentors to support this ecosystem so that we can have budding entrepreneurs coming in. And our strengths primarily lie in terms of how should you even think, how to the mindset of an entrepreneur, how to create that in the first place before you build it up subsequently. In terms of, one is creating the model in the mind, second is in reality, right? So how do you get the thought process right before you actually build it, in the real world? So we help in those aspects as well. And number two is we also try to help them in terms of acting as a devil's advocate in terms of how they should look at things and how they should not do. What not to do is more important than what to do, right? So that insight is very important for them to understand. So we try to build in those insights, knowledge, frameworks to ensure the startups are able to tread in the same direction how they should be doing it. So as a coach, it is interesting, it is exciting, and it's a relationship that we build, and glad to see many startups sprouting and building it up to the next level.
Absolutely, sir. In Technomen Salt Lake in IIC, we also do the same thing. It's grooming and new startups. Even when we were in first, and now I am in second year. So when we were in first year, the fourth years and the pass outs alumni used to groom us. So the need for a coach in building a startup and building a team, I really understand and feel same compartments.
Absolutely, very true.
So next, if I ask that as a startup mentor, what do you think is the most important quality for becoming a successful entrepreneur?
Okay, so entrepreneurs need to have in the first place discipline. Okay, when I say discipline in terms of getting things done, procrastination, all of that, everything falls under the discipline. Learning constantly, so there should be a disciplined way of getting things done. Adaptability is another very important thing. So you can't be like a frog sitting in a pan, right? A pan that is getting heated. So you can't keep adjusting and being there. You need to move out of comfort zones and explore things that you have not done before. Because what worked some time ago may not work today. What works today may not work 2 years down the line, right? You need to be adaptable to understand what the market conditions are, how the world is moving, how the dynamics are changing, and then try to move things forward. And also, as an entrepreneur, it's a lonely journey, right? Because you're going to drive things. You also need to ensure that the team is motivated. So you need to stay positive, which is extremely important in the life of an entrepreneur. Because most of the times they'll get dejected and say, "Okay, fine, I think things don't work. Chalo, let's try to do something else." So I see many entrepreneurs shifting from one product to another product to another product. They keep experimenting, and in the span of 3 to 5 years, they would have done so many things, but not built any single company at all. Right? It is not a time pass, or it is not something that you are not interested to do something, and I'm interested to do something else. You need to build an organization of great vision. It's a responsibility as well. So you need to be fully charged. You need to stay positive. You need to have a bigger outlook, right? And you need to pass on that energies to the people around so that you are able to motivate the team and get things going. And patience and perseverance. When I say patience, everybody wants to have things done like this, including me, right? So when you look at it, restlessness is part of entrepreneur's life, right? We want things to happen and things like that. At the same time, you also need to have the patience to understand that it takes a finite amount of time. It does take a finite amount of energy to ensure things happen, right? You can make it faster, but depends upon so many other criteria. So you shouldn't get frustrated when things don't happen the way how you want to happen. So you need to have the perseverance to ensure that you keep trying and ensure that the business is resilient and build it up. And another very important quality, I would call it as, is as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, one should have a breadth and depth of knowledge, right? You will see people who can be technically very sound, so they are too very focused on the tech side. But when it comes to entrepreneurship, you need to have an all-round vision, all-round outlook, right? You need to understand. You don't need to be a CFO, but you need to understand the financial models and concepts. You don't need to be a salesperson, but you will need to understand how the product is sold. You need to understand the marketing at a high level. You don't need to do physical execution of the social media stuff and stuff like that, but you will need to understand the bigger elements and blocks, right? So that's what I call it as the breadth of knowledge is very, very important. So you need to have a significant amount of breadth. At the same time, I also see many people who actually keep floating around, right, without any depth, without any stuff, So you need to have the depth as well. So you need to have the breadth as well as the depth in terms of ensuring you are able to, steer the ship and keep things going. There are many qualities, but these are, I think, the top that which one certainly should have, and many often these are things that are actually getting missed.
Absolutely. Like you told, adaptability and patience, which we all feel are very important for being an entrepreneur as well as successful in life. And you were talking about these problem solving techniques. Like when in the first question you mentioned that we are not lacking in ideas. Like we also have many ideas, but whenever we go to solve them, we feel this, we are lacking in maybe some technologies or maybe some fewer elements, insights of that problem, which is stopping us from solving that. We need to be more knowledgeable, and that's where coaches also help.
Absolutely, you are absolutely right. So, in fact, many a times there are so many calls that keeps coming up and say, Shyam, I wanted to get your mentoring. I want you to be my coach. And there are also the other side. Why do I need a coach? I'm already running a business. Why do I actually need a coach? So when you look at the greats, even the greatest of the tennis players or the cricket players will have a coach. Okay, and there are enough examples that are floating around. Including the TED Talks as to why the need for the coach is very important. It's not that the coach is superior to somebody else or somebody else is superior to the coach. It's not about that. It is about getting those insights, getting those value from that particular coach, right? In addition to what you already know, that's more important, because you will be doing some things in a particular way. But as a coach, you will be able to see things differently. The coach will be able to spot certain things which you are not able to, because you are inside it. You can't see it. So the coach can see it from a multi-dimensional perspective and give those solid feedback. Of course, for that, the breadth and depth of knowledge is very critical for the coach to be successful, to ensure that the concerned entrepreneur or the concerned startup founder, right, is able to take mileage out of the association or the value of the engagement. So it's important to have coach at any point in time. It can be any kind of a coach. It can be a business coach. It can be a finance coach. It can be a operation, whatever. You can call domain experts at various levels, but it is always advisable to have some kind of a coach to look things around and who can actually give you some direction and guidance, which quite often or sometimes you might actually miss. It could be a blind spot.
Now, being an Indian and looking towards the coming generations, do you think India is more supportive of startups compared to other countries?
I have globetrotted to 25 countries, right, on business, right? The length and breadth of the world I've traveled on business. I should say that we have one of the best talents. Okay, We also jovially say we understand Jugaad much better than anybody else, right? Jugaad is not to do some fraud. Jugaad is to ensure that you find a way out in spite of so many challenges, right? Ask anyone from a North American or a European to come and sit in the car and drive. They could be a fantastic driver, the number one driver in the world, but then just ask them to drive in our traffic. So we are used to the commotion. We are used to thinking very differently, very agile. So the mindsets are extremely sharp, and we have a fantastic talent that is available in abundance, right? I'm not here talking about education and talent because these two are quite a bit disconnected in today's world. Okay, so I'm not. That's a different topic altogether. So let me focus more on to the talent that is available. And today, the Gen Zs, Gen Y are starting to look at options beyond just jobs. Okay, I've been associated with the numerous initiatives, both in terms of the government or in terms of some bodies, some private platforms, in terms of building entrepreneurs. Because if a country has to grow, country has to scale up, entrepreneurship is absolutely critical, right? And if you look at the way how things have progressed over the last 20, 30 years, right, you can see it was predominantly 90s when we were out of college. Entrepreneurship was not even in the mind, in the weirdest of thought, right? We never imagined that we will become entrepreneur at some point in time. The mindset is to get into work, grow well professionally, learn, keep growing. That's a mantra. That is what like 99.999% of the students or even 99.999 will look at it. But today it's completely different. People do have even entrepreneurship courses in institutions, right? And there are entrepreneurship contests which I've been part of, of IIT Bombay. And this is from schools. I'm not even talking about colleges. Okay, so we are looking at ideas and business models and stuff like that from the school level, right? 8th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade kind of students. So it's a fantastic market that is actually coming up. And of course, there's a lot of push and interest from the government as well, right? And it's an ecosystem. So it is not like one person who can do that, right? The government has facilitated a lot of processes and streamlined a lot of things. A long way to go. We are still a growing economy. We have our democracy. We have our challenges. But at the same time, a lot of institutions have taken up on themselves in terms of setting up incubation centers, setting up, startups in their own campuses, or nurturing those through accelerators and stuff like that. And government is also funding a lot in terms of institutions getting funded, and in turn the startups getting funded to do a prototype and things like that, which never was there about 10 years ago, right? So entrepreneurship life is very risky. Number one. Number two, when you look at it, why India is far more, I would say, capable is today's generation is also looking at entrepreneurship as an avenue, not just jobs. Okay, they may have fantastic jobs, they may have good placements, but there are also sizable number. The percentages could be very small because we have absolute volume. We have the quantum of students are extremely large, right? So the percentages might look very tiny, but then the volume of people who are actually trying into entrepreneurship is significantly high. Okay, for a smaller country, it could look the percentage could look mind-boggling. So the point here is that those opportunities are provided, just that the exposure needs to be there, and there still needs to be proper guidance for the respective institutions if this has to succeed. So if students, so it is not about doing a project and then I'll showcase in the resume and then I'll go take a job somewhere else, right? Many a times that is also happening. But I would say there has to be a stronger goal, stronger vision to ensure that there's a clear plan, right, from the institutions or any incubation acceleration bodies that this is how we plan to do, this is how we plan to scale it up. These are our goals. Let's look at it, what is required. And you need to have quality people to support that vision and growth. So India certainly is in the cusp of, it's growing pretty well, and we are still scratching the surface. It will go multifold, as you can see, number of unicorns have multiplied. But that's a different story. Let's not look at only the unicorns and get carried away. But there are a lot of small and medium enterprises which are also scalable, sustainable, and they are slowly building, and they don't make much noise. And those are the real breadwinners, right? And those are the companies who will build a scalable, sustainable, startup ecosystem and building the economy as a whole.
Yes, sir. Uh, when we talk about India, being an Indian, and when we have such a huge diversity, how does regional language connect a person to advancing technologies and the state means people of other state as well?
Good question. So when you look at regional, of course, a few South Indian regional languages are very, very common. Hindi is there. English is another connection. Though technology books are primarily in English, right? For example, consumption of technology is happening through multi-dimension. So, say for example, you have a platform like a YouTube, like a video platform, right? I'm not looking at social media per se because it will have everything else. But when you look at learning as a system, you will have blogs, you will have YouTube as a video to look at things, right? Understand from your own native language consumption, in terms of understanding and doing things. We also have our own podcast. Like for example, as you would have seen, we have it in Hindi, we have it in English, we have it in Tamil. So we have podcasts in regional languages, and it covers across multiple genres, right? Technology is also a genre. Business is also a genre, right? There are people who speak on. There are jockeys who speak on various genres. So you will be able to consume. So technology connects people across multiple regions. People who have a completely different demography, right? And it is common. All we have it is just a phone, and everybody has this, right? So if you have it, you consume the knowledge. The technology is actually serving you to your doorstep. Not to your doorstep, actually in your hands. It is not even your doorstep. It's right in front of you, presenting things around. So it has become a fantastic enabler, and we certainly should leverage that. Having said that, you also need to know what to consume and what not to consume, right? That's another story which I haven't quoted in the first place. The reason for starting this podcast app is to have a curated platform, because there is no junk contents at all. And if somebody is speaking in a platform, they are onboarded as a jockey. So it's a privilege to become a jockey in the Voxit platform, podcast app platform. Number one. Number two, we don't have a single word that talks about a COVID or a corona. Show me one app in the world, a podcast or a video, which will not have a COVID or a corona at any point in time. So we have more than 10,000 audio talks. So we want people to consume positive content. So you should also understand that consuming technology also brings you a lot of information in front of you. But then if you are spending all the junk, then your mind is all filled with all the junk information, which is actually not required, right? But you need to fill the mind with the right amount of information, insights, stay motivated, stay charged, stay positive, which means you need to start consuming right information if you are looking at growing well in your life, right? So it certainly helps.
Thank you, sir, for answering this question. Now I would like to hand over to Sneha.
Sir, how do you define success as an entrepreneur?
Okay, success as an entrepreneur has multi-dimension. The success can be defined very differently. Okay, success to you could be very different from me, could be very different to Abhi or somebody else, right? For some, success is making money. For some, success is all about seeing the company grow. For some, success is all about power. For some, success is all about fame, right? For some, it is about the right balance, right? The balance again can be very different, 20% here, 30% there, 40% here. So it could be a combination of various factors. So as an entrepreneur, the success of an entrepreneur is in terms of how he wants to define his success as. So it will be the goals and the yardstick could be very different for each and every one. But when we see from outside, okay, fine, he's fantastic in terms of doing this, but I would call it as a success factor is what individually entrepreneurs should define for themselves, right? So that is how I would try to answer it. And if you ask me a very generic question in terms of successful entrepreneurship, it is all about building a scalable and a sustainable model, right? From a business perspective. So you have a product, which means yes, your customers love your product or your service, right? And when somebody talks good about it, then yes, it is a successful venture or a successful initiative. Whether you have you had million customers or 10 customers or 100,000 customers, doesn't matter. But end of the day, when your product is or service is helping people transform lives, I think it is success. Okay, how you want to celebrate it, that's different story.
Yes, sir. Sir, according to you, what makes a successful marketing strategy?
Okay, successful marketing, good. In fact, many a times there is lack of strategy in marketing, right? People directly get into action, and I always call that it is like a headless chicken, right? When you cut the head of a chicken, what happens? It keeps running around, helter skelter everywhere around, right? And before it falls. So most of the times, organizations look at many organizations, not just the startups, even small and medium businesses. They keep doing things without a strategy in place, right? There's a lot of execution, so they hire a lot of guys to execute, but the brain is completely missing. When I say the brain is in terms of the vision, the direction, the goal setting, the strategy. That's what I call it as a brain. So that is predominantly missing with most organizations I've seen. But exceptions are quite a few. Very, very few. So I would say successful marketing strategy or a marketing strategy should incorporate, should be able to define who your customers are. Okay, when I ask people, can you define your customer? They think it's very easy, but then when I go deeper and deeper, it's very difficult to define your audience, to profile your audience. So you should be able to profile your audience, number one. Number two, you should connect with your customers. The marketing strategy should be able to connect with your customers in providing the right value add, right? And it should showcase value. It is not about sales. We have this product, this deal. So it's not about that. It is all about showcasing the right value to the users, to the buyers. It could be B2B or B2C, but showcase value, how it's going to help them, right? And not selling in terms of my thing has this processor, this stuff, and not selling on features, right? It should be focused more in terms of what kind of a content will actually help drive this, right? So it's a kind of a tactic as well. So the strategy fundamentally should revolve around the customer, right? Most of the times it revolves around the product and it revolves around the people driving the product. Rather, shift the focus onto the customer, put them on the spotlight, and build the strategy around that. And that's a secret. It's open secret right now. So you build it accordingly, and it depends upon what kind of a product or a service, what kind of a market you do. But of course, everybody knows about 4Ps and stuff like that. 4P, 5Ps. That's typical, structured way of doing subsequently. But the fundamental concept is in terms of customer focus, and rest everything follows.
On behalf of Sneha, I might ask the next question.
Yeah, sure.
That what are the mistakes that we need to get highlighted? Means mistakes that needs to get highlighted from the startup entrepreneurs.
I didn't exactly understand. Can you?
Means I just wanted to ask that what are the biggest mistakes made by startup entrepreneurs?
Oh, okay. What are the mistakes typically done by entrepreneurs? Okay, so most often what happens is that everybody thinks their idea is the best. Okay, that's a universal fact. So it could be still the best, but you need to still understand that there are systems and processes to ensure some validation happens. Most often people end up building enterprises and realizing that probably after 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, they realize this is not the business that they should be into, right? So you will need to ensure that validation happens. Most often it doesn't. When I say validation, it is about problem and solution. We talked about this couple of questions before, right? What kind of problems are there? What kind of possible solutions can come up to that? That's step number one. The step number two is, for the particular solution, which is the best solution, is this the right product? Or is it the right service? This connect predominantly does not happen, and I call that as a product market fit. Okay, so the solution could be the right ones, but the kind of product and the approach that you're taking could be completely different. So product market fit could be missing. So many times I see a gap in that perspective. Third one, unable to keep the team charged, motivated, and build it up. So you will need to have the right people, right coaches, right mentors, right guides to give you direction and get things executed. Not everything you can do by yourself. You will need to hire people. You will need to outsource certain stuff. You should know what to do, when to do, and things like that. So the team execution part is also another bigger challenge. Product still could be good, but if you don't have the execution strength, you still have a problem, right? That's number 3. And also, I do notice that restless in the mind of entrepreneur when they try do something else and suddenly drop this off and try do something else and get charged and do something else. This is not very common, but I've seen it, which many with tech entrepreneurs shifting goalposts from time to time. So you can't be focused on one. You are restless. You don't want to create another product. You want to create another solution. So you keep building it up. But that is not company. That's okay for a research, right? And another area that I have seen is not able to sustain. When I say not able to sustain, not able to get the funds at the right time is another challenge. Okay, so either they are unable to raise the funds through their own sources, even at the time of building the startup, or to scale it up, you will need to have the right people onboarded, to ensure that it is somebody believes in your vision, somebody believes in your aspirations, and then they bet on you. So that is also another reason that startups don't take off. But from mistakes perspective, I think the initial few that I have told you are primary. At the top, I would call it as a top 3 from my experience.
Sir, can you recall any funny pitch moment that you have in your mind now?
Funny pitch moment. So you're talking about a startup pitch that happens.
Yeah.
What kind of a? Okay. There could be so many that could come up, but I would say there are many instances that you typically give a time, right? You give a 5 minutes or 4 minutes or 5 minutes of time, and they wouldn't have covered 1/3 of the presentation. The time is already over. So suddenly the bell clocks, and then they haven't even introduced what the products and stuff like that. So you wonder, what have you done for the last 5 minutes? Talking about something completely different, market and things like that, and suddenly before even the product is introduced, it's over. So that is one. And there are very other funny things that happens. There are 3-4 people in the team. Everybody tries to explain one slide, and we won't understand what is actually happening. It's completely not coherent. Each and everybody has their own wavelengths, have their own story to tell. So it's like 4 stories mushed into one and not connected with each other, kind of a scenario. So it is just a turn. I will speak for 1 minute and it exactly gets cut off and somebody tries to take over. And so I've seen that quite funny instances that keeps happening in pitch. And some other instances in terms of, yes, I keep going as a jury for so many sessions. So I keep seeing some startups repeatedly coming at different pitches. So, and of course, it's difficult to recall, but sometimes over a period of pitch, we will remember, I think we have seen it somewhere. They say we would have given some feedbacks, but people don't work on the feedback. They'll just have the same setup presentation, keep running it down, keep saying the same points. But you have given some feedback, you have given some insights as to what they should do, what they can do better, so that they can present it better, or they need to solidify the ideas and stuff like that. But nothing happens. It's the same rata that you can actually do a tape recorder and keep playing things around, record it and keep playing, we call it as, right? So you could have done that. So those are pretty funny things. There could be numerous, but yeah.
Sir, what advice would you give to your young budding entrepreneurs?
Young budding entrepreneurs, I would say, have patience. Okay, and don't believe that is the best idea. Try to shake it up as much as possible. Okay, and don't cut short the validation process. Okay, there are ways to validate to ensure step-by-step validation. Some can be validated right at the early stage. Some can be done at the prototype stage. Some actually, when the rubber hits the road, only then you will do it. Right. So you will need to have the process. Right. The process of entrepreneurship has to be taken care of. And if they do that, then I think they can be very successful. This is one. And today's entrepreneurs don't have the absolute need of earning bread and butter for their family. I mean, most of them at least, right? Than the days when we had or our parents had. It's a different generation altogether, right? So the basic needs are taken care of, right? It's all about, can I buy an expensive phone or a low cost phone, that kind of a scenario. So you have a great chance to try something different. So at the same time, I'm saying while you are trying, you need to be prepared. Preparation is absolutely essential. It is not like another time pass that I will also try to do that. It's not about doing some time pass types. You will need to have the right preparation to ensure that you are able to take on this journey pretty seriously. Also have in mind that it is not like a job where you get a paycheck in the beginning of the month. It's going to be you see a lot of success stories, fairy tales of startups and stuff like that, right? But I always say you see a duck, smoothly moving around in a pond, but beneath that it is actually hitting a few hundred times a minute to stay afloat, right? So entrepreneurship life is like that. It's going to be very challenging, right? It is very difficult. It is grueling. Okay. At the same time, it is very exciting and very interesting, right? So if you want to try, be prepared. Otherwise, you will get hit all over, right? Even if you're prepared, you'll get hit. But at least you know how to take care. You fall, you will get up and keep moving. But zero preparation, trying to do something is not the right thing, right? So you will need to have the right people besides you, right coaches, right team who can actually support you across various areas and question the right at the right times and ensure that you are able to move. So my piece of 2 cents of suggestion is take care of all of these aspects and have the confidence. Okay, when I say confidence, don't have overconfidence, have optimistic confidence and stay grounded, right? When success comes, don't keep flying because the third can come anytime, right? So stay absolutely grounded, irrespective of whatever levels, whatever position you reach. So even at the start or even 10 years down the line when you're a $1 billion entity also. So stay grounded so that you will be able to see things clearly. You're able to move up and come down, right? And breadth and depth, as I already told you. I think this is very critical in building a successful enterprise.
That was really insightful, sir. It has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful event. On behalf of the team IIC TMSL, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Mr. Shyam, and lastly, a sincere thank you to all the participants and members present here for making the event a grand success.
Thanks so much and namaste. All the very best to you guys. Do well and you are the future. You're going to rock. The country needs you. The world needs you.
Thank you.
Bye.